Once upon a midnight dreary,
while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door.
This podcast is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed. Spoiler warning for whatever is in the title of this episode.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps.
Welcome to the Treehouse of Horror of Babylon, episode 20, where we discuss The Raven. I am Ryan, and with me as always is Daniel. Say hi, Daniel.
Nevermore.
That was the most predictable one.
Yeah.
But I would also be insanely disappointed
Yeah.
if you said anything else.
Yeah.
I almost want it's the only thing you say for the rest of the episode. So Hef was supposed to be here tonight, and I was going to force him to do this with us, and it'd be his first Simpsons episode, but alas, it didn't work out that way. So maybe we'll force him into a different one. Also, but why are we doing this now? This episode is dedicated to the memory of James Earl Jones. I'm sure it is little comfort to his friends and family to know that an episode of The Horror of Babylon has been dedicated to him, but nevertheless...
The dedication is also for us as fans.
Yes. And speaking of fans, thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, Lost Lenore, I don't know, and...
Logan,
the full metal
Nevermore.
And Ben, the fourth patron of hope, and Mia the fifth, the Raven Maker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Caw, caw. And Sierra the sixth, the Keyblade patron. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall in Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at fourhorsemen.tcgplayerpro.com, where you can also manage your comic subscriptions now if you happen to be a comic book subscriber with them. And if you make it into the store, say nevermore, nevermore to the proprietor, Ronald III, Grampus of Christmas. Let's do our history. First, let's talk about The Raven, and then we'll talk a little bit about Mr. Jones. But what is your history with The Raven and kind of Poe in general?
Okay, so when I was in high school, I had an English teacher who absolutely refused to give any extra credit. She's like, no, you just have to do your homework and your assignments, and that's it, with one exception. If you memorized the entirety of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven and recited it in front of class, she would give you extra credit.
Okay.
And I tried.
You tried.
I could not.
I had to memorize and recite the Gettysburg Address, which I did. But it is significantly easier than The Raven.
Yeah, it's like on a napkin.
Yeah.
So I always think about that. She also taught that poem in her class. Mm-hmm. She was a really big fan. That same English teacher, I took a creative writing course from. And after my first short story, she told me I would either grow up to be the next Stephen King or a serial killer. And
fair.
I kind of want to find her and ask her if I can put that quote on the back of my books.
That's funny. So my first my first experience with The Raven is this episode for sure. I have no doubt of that. I definitely was forced to read it in high school at some point, or maybe even middle school, but probably high school. And I have also read The Raven once or twice on my own, just for fun. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Poe. Like, his language is super complicated, and it's
very flowery.
It's like, I don't read him enough to be super comfortable with it. There are some of his stories that I read and I understand and I really like, and then there's others of his stories that I've read and not liked so much, but I think it more has to do with my reading comprehension than me actually disliking him. The Raven is definitely one of the easier ones and definitely a good one to start with.
It's very straightforward in comparison.
Yeah. The Telltale Heart is also a really good one to start with. That one I definitely read in middle school.
And a bunch of these are things that have just inspired so much that you still get either adaptations or things that are inspired by them to this day.
Yes. And of course, this episode of Treehouse of Horror was narrated by James Earl Jones, who unfortunately just passed away, I believe, at the age of 93.
Yeah, he was a lot older than I thought.
Yeah.
He just always looked so young in comparison to other people.
Yeah. And this might be a stupid question, but I mean, kind of, what's your history with James Earl Jones? What do you know him best from?
The Exorcist 2. Heretic. As, what was that kid's name? Makimbo. That probably came off as a little racist. I'm sorry.
That was not the intent.
It is something like that.
Yeah, his name is something like that. He's the Locust Man.
Yeah, and that
he looks like a reject Batman villain from the 60s.
God, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get you, the Locust. And then he just starts talking like James Earl Jones, and Batman's like, never mind, I don't want that smoke. Sorry, Vader.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah. Star Wars, obviously, we're not going to sit here and talk about Star Wars for we could.
Yeah.
But that is his role. Like, some people have a role, and he's done a lot of good stuff, but he's Darth Vader. Star Wars would not be Star Wars without James Earl Jones.
I hate that I think about that stupid Family Guy skit that has him in the Darth Vader outfit, and then George Lucas goes at him and goes, "You can be the voice." Why was that my first thought?
I also... I don't think you've seen this movie because we've talked about it before. The Sandlot. Mm-mm. He's in The Sandlot, and that's a very iconic movie from my childhood. Which The Sandlot is, it's kind of like It for kids. So I kind of want us to do an episode on it at some point. But
it'd be a good bonus episode.
He also has a really good guest starring appearance on the Big Bang Theory.
Apparently, he had a stutter.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, because people keep bringing it up now, and it's one of those things I wish I would have known sooner, because when I was a kid, I also had a stutter and a horrible speech impediment. If I get drunk or super frustrated, some of it starts to come out again. I think Brian's probably heard it.
I have to edit it out.
Yeah, yeah. So
there's actually been, nobody's whatever. I'll tell you. There's been a couple of times where it's been so bad that. There was one episode where I cut it out, and I put it at the end of the episode after the outro song.
Yeah.
And then I copied it and pasted it a bunch of times. So there's a full 30 seconds at the end of the episode of you stuttering. And I just waited to see if, of course, no one ever noticed.
Yeah, but it's oh my God. But that's sort of admirable because, I can see that and relate to that. Yeah. Not that I overcome it to that extent. I wish I did.
Also, James Earl Jones was really good in Roots, and obviously Lion King. I love
Simba.
I just remember, I don't even remember who I was talking to once, but we were talking about the Roots miniseries, and they were like, yeah, every famous black actor made their way into the Roots miniseries at some point. And I was like, well, what about Will Smith? He wasn't in it. It turns out he's the baby in the first episode.
Are you kidding?
No. got schooled hard.
Oh my god.
The vampire's a pure myth, superstition. I may be able to bring you proof that the superstition of yesterday can become the scientific reality of today.
Let's talk about more of this episode.
All right, going to background. So the original air date was October 25th, 1990. This is Treehouse of Horror number 1, season 2, episode 3, overall episode number 16. The
Early days.
Yes. The other segment, it's the third of 3 segments. The first segment was Bad Dream House, which is a parody of the Amityville Horror. And the second one is Hungry Are the Damned, which is a parody of the Damon Knight story To Serve Man, which was also made into a famous Twilight Zone episode. James Earl Jones also does a voice of an alien in that episode, and that episode is the first appearance of Kang and Kodos, the 2 aliens from The Simpsons. This episode was directed by David Silverman and written by Sam Simon, who, along with, is one of the 3 people who's credited with the establishment of the show. This is the very first Simpsons Halloween special, and the episode title is Treehouse of Horror. In season 3, when they did their Halloween special, they called it like The Simpsons Halloween Special 2 or something stupid. But they eventually just started calling them all Treehouse of Horror 3, 4, or 5. In this episode, The Raven received singular praise for James Earl Jones' performance, the atmosphere, and this take on a classic poem. It's often cited as one of the best Treehouse of Horror segments and one of the best overall Simpsons segments.
And that's that. Another story in the classic, infallible 3-act structure. Good enough for Aristotle, good enough for The Simpsons.
Mr. Sislak, I have a feeling there's going to be one more act to this story.
Well, I'm not hanging around for that. 4 acts.
Structure and themes. Most of the time, these things are either a parody or something that takes like the loose concept of like a movie or a book or a story, and then they kind of do their own thing with it.
Yeah.
This is like
A dramatic reading.
a dramatic reading, right?
Yeah.
To the point where like it's comedic. There are comedic things in it, but would you even really call this like a comedy?
Probably not. I think there was like, I mean, there were some jokes in there, but it was very subdued. I have the suspicion that whoever pitched this episode was probably just such a big fan of The Raven, and they were like, James Earl Jones. Like they had, like maybe he was scheduled, like he was talking to The Simpsons about doing a guest thing already, and they just went, we could have him read this.
Just have him read The Raven. We'll animate some stuff around it.
Yeah. Again, I have
We'll make Bart the Raven, and
yeah, because there's stuff you can do with it. Or maybe they were talking about doing The Raven anyway, but then they got James Earl Jones, and then they went, wait, let's just have him read it.
Yeah. I think, honestly, this segment is something that could and should be used in English classrooms.
I think this is a good way to get maybe some kids more interested in maybe if not poetry, then maybe literature.
The Raven is one of the easier Edgar Allan Poe things to read, but still, like, if you're not used to like that kind of literature at all, and you just read it off a page or just have someone read it to you, it would be very easy to get lost in it and be like, I don't know what's going on. But like just seeing it animated out like that, and Homer interjecting the spoken parts and having Lisa's little commentary here and there, it just makes it so much easier to understand.
Yeah, I think it's it could be a good like teaching tool. Because it's short. You could have people read it. You read the poem. You could show them this and then have them read it again. And then you basically understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, translated wise. And then you have to get into stuff like themes and symbolism.
Yeah.
But it's a good learning. I think this is a good teaching tool from the freaking Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's really cool. To my knowledge, this is the only thing like this they've ever done. I haven't done any searches, but just using my memory and my Simpsons knowledge, I don't remember anything.
Your Simpsons knowledge is almost as good as your Lord of the Rings knowledge. So I would be surprised if you're missing something.
I mean, I'm sure they did probably the night before Christmas. They did that,
Yeah.
but that one, people have done that one to death with this exact same format. Yeah.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's jump to characters. Not really a character, but the narrator, played by James Earl Jones. And people talk about, Morgan Freeman's the best narrator that there ever was.
Second best.
Second best, exactly. I mean, just like, my note here is the narrator to end all narrations. This... Could they have picked anyone better for this?
No. I'm a little biased, but I really love James Earl Jones's voice. Mm-hmm. God, because he has a very good cadence. He has it's nice and deep. Mm-hmm. And it can be menacing. It can be soothing.
See Mufasa, see Vader.
Yeah. And really, the inflection barely changes, but it's the subtleties in it.
He truly has a unique voice that he also uses uniquely.
I kind of want to hear him stutter with that voice.
I want to hear him in a porn.
Every time I try to do a James Earl Jones, it's coming out as George Takei in my head.
I try to go black and into some gay Asian.
Yeah, because I'm trying to do that like deep, like, oh, and it's coming out, oh my.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's great.
I can't.
Yeah.
Ryan knows that I can't do accents. I can't do voices.
Yeah, that's
so
fine. It's fine. It's not an important skill.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mind when people riff on me when I do those because I know they're bad.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had a lot of good casting of Simpsons characters for, we had Pennywise, Krusty as Pennywise, we had Mr. Burns as Dracula, but Bart as the Raven. Like, that annoying little bird that just flies in and says his catchphrase again and again and won't go away. Was like there ever a more perfect casting decision right there.
Eat my shorts.
I think it's great. And his like he there's even like a line in the poem where the character says something to the Raven about having like a stunted crown or something like that. And it kind of sounds like Bart's hair to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and then before we got out of characters, I just want to shout out Dan Castellaneta as Homer, doing like the spoken lines from the poem. It is a little strange to hear one of the most infamously stupid characters in all of media speaking in this way.
You didn't do a bad job.
But like performance-wise, it obviously gets overshadowed by James Earl Jones. But I just
who wouldn't?
Yeah. But shout out to Dan Castellaneta. He did a really good job with the enunciations and everything while staying in Homer's voice.
I thought they were going to have just James Earl Jones doing narrations from the book. Mm-hmm. And then it was going to be like normal Simpsons dialogue. And then when it wasn't, I was surprised.
I also really liked how Lisa reads the first half of the first sentence and then it melds into.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And they could have easily have just done this whole thing with just Lisa reading it and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But it's James Earl Jones instead.
Yeah.
I'll kill you all. I'll drive you crazy and I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
Okay, let's go to scary shit. And of course, if you're new to Treehouse of Horror of Babylon, we don't talk about if it was scary. We talk about what was the best joke and what was the worst joke. And this is going to be a little harder because, as we discussed in structure and themes, this isn't really much of a comedy.
For me, the best gag is the the Lenore portrait, and then
The hair.
and then there's just, because it's not big enough, so there's another portrait next to it that finishes the hair.
I was thinking that one, or maybe people were just easier to scare in 1845.
Which isn't, because that's a joke that we've made.
When we did our episodes on like Dracula, Carmilla, all that stuff, we've talked about it's scary, yes, but not scary like people back then may have thought.
A spooky foreigner.
and Bart makes his joke about Friday the 13th part 1.
Yeah.
Worst gag, I don't know.
I guess just the Raven dropping other Edgar Allan Poe books from the bookshelf.
The Pit, the Pendulum, the Telltale Heart, and
which is fine. It's not a bad gag, but like if you don't know
what those are,
then you'll be like,
"Oh my God, are you Stephen King?" "No, I'm Dean Koontz." "Oh."
All right, so let's go ahead then and move to Kings and Koontz. Daniel, what is your king?
James Earl Jones.
This is also my king.
Okay.
Yeah, technically Dark Lord of the Sith, but we'll go with King. Actually, technically not Dark Lord of the Sith, just Dark Lord of the Sith in public, because Sidious was actually Dark Lord of the Sith.
Yeah. Star Wars lore.
Yay. All right, Koontz. I have a really weird Koontz, but do you have...
Nothing. I want to hear your weird Koontz.
So, perfect opportunity for one of the books that the Raven dropped on Homer's head. Why didn't they use The Fall of the House of Usher? It's not one of the books. I went back and double checked.
Yeah.
That would have been so funny.
That's better. Because the pit and the pendulum would have worked in tandem with that, because the pendulum gets lower.
You could have done The Fall of the House of Usher, The Pit and the Pendulum, and then maybe like The Mask of the Red Death to finish it.
So, I guess I'll just make my Koontz that I want more James Earl Jones. No, I can't have it.
You can't have it.
So, now I'm sad.
Now. All right, so we're going to rankings. I've got you up first. Here's your list. This is number 20. It's not the 20th on your list, but this is the 20th one we've done. Again, if you want to look at our rankings in the description of the video or in the show notes, if you're on a podcast app, you can hit the link to our Google Drive and check out our rankings for all the books and movies and stuff that we consume.
I'm a little biased, so it's probably going to be sort of high.
Yeah, it's going to be high on mine. I'd be surprised if it overtook Homerzilla on your list.
Yeah, it's not taking over Homerzilla. Death Tome was early in my... I think I'm going to put it at number 3.
So, below Death Tome and above Hex in the City, which is
That's probably the highest one of the older ones has gotten on mine.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty high on mine as well. Maybe not quite as high as on yours. Just because I liked this one as a kid, but this one wasn't one of the ones that I watched again and again, just simply because I didn't appreciate it as much as I did now.
Yeah.
So I don't have quite as much nostalgia for this one as I do for some of the others. So it's going to be my number 6, above Not It, and below Easy Bake Coven. Homework. What's another short story, poem, piece of literary work that you think that The Simpsons should take in this manner, or adapt in this manner?
I want them to do a just like this. I want it to be mostly a narration with like some like Simpsons characters in there of H.P. Lovecraft's Reanimator.
Carl's knocking on the door in the middle of the night. Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh no! So
that was bad, Daniel. But I'm sticking with my answer.
Well, I thought I thought you were going to say that you wanted James Earl Jones to narrate all of Lolita with Simpsons characters.
No, because that one could hit way too well.
Who would be Humbert? I'm thinking Sideshow Bob.
Sideshow Bob would be, because he kind of acts like Humbert. He's very self-important and obsessed with his own intelligence.
Yeah.
At least as fucking Lolita.
Yeah, obviously.
So.
No, I don't.
Bad,
that would be bad. No, we don't want that.
And God, you could just get Jeremy Irons to narrate.
He's a good narrator.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he is.
He was too good as Humbert both times.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Could you imagine if that... I guess that's not what he's known for, at least.
I guess Scar.
Yeah.
He was really good Alfred.
Yeah. I think he had to do so many other things because he didn't want to be known as Humbert.
People rank Batmans all the time, but why doesn't anybody ever rank Alfreds? Because they're all good.
I think they're all good in different ways. I've seen people rank Alfreds, but I'm obsessed with DC Comics.
Yeah.
We could rank Alfred sometime.
I like them all, though.
They just all end up as S tier.
Yeah, that's what would happen.
Yeah.
I would even include the butler from the Big O. Okay.
Hiya! Happy Easter!
So for further reading, just go read some Edgar Allan Poe, go watch some James Earl Jones movies.
Both are worth your time.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, check out The Exorcist 2, The Heretic. It's absolutely worth your time.
There's ways to have fun with that movie.
Yeah. Upcoming on the Horror Babble, we have a tentative schedule for season 3 that we're actually still kind of messing with. But just stay tuned to our socials. We'll post updated schedules for books that we're reading in September and October. We will be doing an episode of The Hobbit very soon. Song of Susanna, so that's Dark Tower 6. Night of the Living Dummy 3 will wrap up our summer of Goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then our last big novel of season 3 will be The Ceremonies by T.E.D. Klein. That will be late in October. That'll probably be coming out close to Halloween.
I'm almost finished with the book, and I think my stack of notes is like this high right now.
I haven't started.
It's probably going to turn into a very loose form discussion just because... I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just written in such a... Not even like the language, but the way the story is structured is... I might have to read this twice.
I have one question, and I just want a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And if you can't answer yes or no without explaining more, then just don't answer. Is it scary?
I cannot answer without explaining way more.
Then we'll wait. That's fine.
I have a very specific answer for it, but it would require me to get into, like, the plot.
That's fine.
And or the events inside the plot. Maybe not the plot itself.
The events of Poroth Farm?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of events and farmers, because Stardew and Abby like Stardew, I guess. I don't know. Thank you to our patrons, Abigail the First, Breaker of Chains, Mother of Dragons, and
Logan,
the Full Metal Patron, and Ben the Fourth, Patron of Hope, and Mia the Fifth, the Rainmaker.
She makes it rain, yo.
Oh, she makes it rain. And Sierra the Sixth, the Keyblade Patron. And thank you to Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming, which you can visit at the Morgantown Mall, Morgantown, West Virginia, the Mall Robinson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You can shop online at shop.fourhorsemencomics.com. And if you make it into the store, say hello to the proprietor, Ronald III, Nevermore of Christmas. Caw.
I don't have a good gag to go with that. So.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, well, thank you for watching The Raven, and that sounds weird to say, watching The Raven. For watching The Simpsons with me and recording tonight.
I had a great time, honestly.
Yeah.
This has honestly been a pretty good evening for me, pretty good week for me.
Yep, doing good. All right, thank you to our patrons. Stay tuned for our socials and stay scary.
Stay scary, everybody.
And now for the obligatory socials. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can find the podcast on Twitter at HorrorPod69. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Slasher and Goodreads. Become part of the Disturbed community by asking for the Facebook group and Discord links. Send dick pics to the Horror of Babylon podcast at gmail.com. Support the show at patreon.com/the Horror of Babylon. In closing, you can let your friends know that The Horror of Babylon is available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible and all other major podcast apps. Stay scary.